जीवन ये प्रकाशित करने, राहों को आलोकित करने। हम अपना दीपक स्वयं बने, हम अपना रास्ता स्वयं चुने। हम
अपना दीपक स्वयं बने, हम अपना रास्ता स्वयं चुने।
जीवन ये प्रकाशित करने, राहों को आलोकित करने।
सीमा से विद्यालय जो मुक्त हो,
धन साधन समय की सीमा से विद्यालय जो मुक्त हो।
कभी पढ़े हम कहीं पढ़े, वे विषय की लोच से युक्त हो।
कभी पढ़े हम कहीं पढ़े, वे विषय की लोच से
और जागे,
मंजिल आने की ध्वनि सुने। हम अपना दीपक स्वयं बने, हम अपना रास्ता स्वयं चुने।
जीवन ये प्रकाशित करने, राहों को आलोकित करने। परीक्षा का अवसर एक बार ही क्यों मिलता फिर दुनिया में इसके केंद्र बहुत।
कोई मन चाहा केंद्र चुने। हम अपना दीपक स्वयं बने, हम अपना रास्ता स्वयं चुने। कोई मन
Welcome learners in our studio, and in this program we are going to discuss about D and F block elements, and in this session we will discuss about transition elements. For this we have invited Dr. Sulekh Chandra sir in our studio. Welcome sir in our studio.
Thank you, Dr. Rajiv. Now you are very aware about the S, P, D and F block elements. I will see here that if you look at the periodic table, in the left hand side you will find S block elements, and right hand side you will find P block elements, and transition elements are situated between S and P block elements. So simply you can say you can also explain that S block elements are highly electropositive in nature and P block elements are highly electronegative in nature. So transition takes place from electropositive to electronegative through these elements. That's why these elements are known as transition elements. Because these elements are also known as d block elements. D block elements means that last electron is going to enter into d orbital. Now you can define the d block elements that they should have partially filled d orbital either in the atomic state or in the ionic state, that is common oxidation state. If they have partially filled d orbital, they comes under the category of d block or transition elements. Now there are 4 transition series: 3d, 4d, 5d and 6d. Now since your syllabus 3d series is only included, so I will concentrate only on 3d block elements. Now I will discuss the properties of different transition elements in the 2 categories, that is general properties and characteristic properties.
Before this, we must know what are the just common properties for transition elements. What are the criteria? We
Now,
can say that this element is transition or non-transition.
Now when we say about the transition non-transition elements, as I just showed you that they should have partially filled d orbital positively either in the atomic state or in the ionic state. For example, if you write down the electron configuration of chromium, that is 3d54s1. So since it has 5 electron d orbital, all are, you can simply say that is partially filled d orbital, that is why it is a transition element. If you say around zinc, zinc has 3d10 electronic configuration. Now zinc 2 plus has 3d10 electronic configuration. So actually zinc should not be transition elements. Transition elements should have always. Now if you see copper, for example, copper has 3d10 electronic configuration, but in case of copper 2 plus ion, it has partially filled d orbital, that is 3d9 electronic configuration. That's why it is transition elements. Now we can explain the property of transition elements in 2 ways. One way is that we can take the general properties which is shown by each and every elements. For example, you write down the electronic configuration. Look after the electronic configuration, the 3d block elements, you will find they have a regular train. The general formula you can suggest n minus 1d 1 to 10 ns2, where n is the principal quantum number. So suppose if it is 4, then there will be 3d. So you can write down the first transition series start from scandium, titanium, this is vanadium, chromium, manganese, iron, cobalt, nickel and copper and zinc. So if we write down electronic configurations, the first question arises, we look the periodic table, then why first electron enter into the 4s instead of 3d. So when you write down the electronic configuration of transition elements, you start with the scandium, then after completing 4s2, electron will start into 3d, 3d1, then titanium 3d2, then vanadium 3d3, then chromium, there is an exception because half filled cell is more stable as compared to partially filled. So it becomes 3d54s1. Then manganese 3d54s2, then iron 3d64s2, then cobalt 3d74s2, nickel 3d84s2, copper 3d10 Again complete filled cell is more stable as compared to partially filled. Now zinc is 3d10 So you will see the successive electron is going to enter into the d orbital. So you can simply write down the electronic configuration for the 3d block elements. There is no other exceptions, only chromium and copper, where half filled and fully filled are more stable. Now we move the second properties of general properties, that is the atomic radii, which is the most important part. If you compare the atomic radii of s and p block elements, you will find the large change when we move from one atom to other, one element to other element. But in case of transition elements, you will find the atomic radii is remain almost constant. Change is almost negligible. What is the reason behind that? That we can explain on the basis of, since you are adding the electron d orbital, the electrons act as a shield between the valence electron and nucleus. Shield means the repulsion and attraction will take place simultaneously. Therefore, size will not alter much more. Size remain almost same. This you can simply say it is due to the shielding effect of d electrons. So you can write down the size. Now, but it has been found that at the end of series, size increases. The reason you can simply say because d is completely filled, then repulsion will be more as compared to attraction. So you can simply say the zinc, the size of zinc is little bit larger as compared to copper. On the basis of this, you can also explain ionization enthalpy. Ionization enthalpy is the, you can simply say, energy required to remove an electron from an isolated gaseous atom to produce cation. Now since, and it is affected by the size. Since the size of transition elements almost same, so therefore they will show almost same value of ionization enthalpy. But you can simply say here also that half filled and fully filled are more stable. So if you want to remove the electron from 3d5 or 3d10, then ionization enthalpy will be very high. Third one is the melting point. Now you will find the transition elements have so largest or highest value of melting point. The reason is because more electrons are involved in bond formation. As you have already studied in S&P block elements, if we compare the melting point of alkaline earth metal with the alkali metals, you will find alkaline earth metals have higher value of melting point as compared to alkali metals, because alkaline earth metals 2 electrons are involved, but in case of alkali metal there is only 1 electron. I will discuss when discuss the variable oxidation states that more and more electrons are involved in the bond formation, therefore they show high value of melting point. Again there is exception. Although manganese can contribute several electrons, but its melting point is very low. It should be high, but it is low. So this we can explain symmetrical electronic configurations. Due to symmetrical electronic configurations, packing will be loose and manganese will show lower value of melting point. Next property you will find in standard electrode potential, which is the most important part, because we can explain the reducing behavior of transition elements by using this one. You will find here, I will explain some questions over here, that where 3d10 and 3d5 electronic configuration, they have exceptional in the value of standard electrode potential. Now if you compare the zinc and copper, standard electrode potential of zinc is minus 0.76 volt, whereas copper is plus 0.34 volts. The question arises, why it is so? Although copper also have 3d10 electronic configuration. The reason is, when we change copper to copper gaseous state, a large amount of energy is required, because zinc cadmium comes under the category of volatile. So very low amount of energy required for the sublimation. Sublimation means energy is absorbed. So when we say standard electrode potential is the combination of 3 properties: sublimation plus ionization plus hydration energy. If sublimation is more, that means standard electrode potential is positive. And sometimes question can also be asked that copper does not replace hydrogen from acids. This is the same reason you can explain, because it has positive standard electrode potential.
This one, sir, standard electrode potential and reactivity of these metals, have there any relation between this?
Yeah,
how they related?
They have relationship with reactivity and ether. More negative the standard potential, more reactive will be metal. So simply you can say that if you see the alkali metals, the standard potential is more negative for cesium. So cesium will be more reactive as compared to other alkali metals. So they are related to each other. Now I will come to the characteristics properties of transition elements. First is the variable oxidation states. Now we have already seen S and P block elements. S and P block elements generally do not show variable oxidation states. If they show, the region is different, because they have inert wear effect. But in case of transition elements, it is quite different criteria. When we show variable oxidation state, means they show more than one oxidation state. More than one means that they can show plus 2, plus 3, plus 4, so on. So what is the reason behind that? The reason is because the energy difference between n-1d and ns is very small. So more and more electrons are involved in the bond formation. As I have told you just now in the electronic configurations, that when you form the ions, electrons are first removed from the 4s instead of 3d. If you need more electron, then remove from the 3d. For example, if suppose exam may ask you write down the electronic configuration of chromium 3 plus. So first you should be clear that electronic configuration of chromium is 3d5,4s1. So a 1 electron removed from the s and 2 from the d. So it becomes 3d3. So all the 3 electrons will take part in the formation of bond. That's why you can simply say they show variable oxidation state. For example,
in the 3D series, sir, you have same as scandium to zinc, which element shows maximum oxidation state, and manganese shows +7 oxidation state.
Yeah.
And as we move from manganese to zinc, this oxidation state decreases. What is the reason why manganese show maximum oxidation state +7?
Yeah. Actually, up to manganese you will find the difference is very less. But as you move to higher elements, then difference increases. So less number of electrons are involved in the bond formation. So you will find here that scandium can show only +3. This is the only transition elements which show only single, that is +3 oxidation states. When you move to titanium, titanium can show +2, +3 as well as +4. Vanadium can show +2, +3, +4 and +5. chromium can show +2, 2, +6. Manganese can show +2, 2, +7. Then iron comes show +2 and +3. Cobalt can also show +2 and +3. Nickel generally is stable in +2 oxidation states. Copper can show +1 and +2, and zinc will show only +2 oxidation states.
Is there any rule, sir, how we can decide? Suppose we don't know about the electronic configuration. So how we can decide if this element will show +2, +3 or +4, which oxidation state is more stable? Is there any rule to find out this oxidation will be more stable for this?
Stability oxidation state can be explained on the basis of a standard electrode potential.
Yes.
For example, suppose we take manganese. I will explain here that Mn +7, then Mn +6, then Mn +4, then Mn +2. If you see the external electrode potential, these are the positive value. MnO4 -2, MnO4 2 minus, the value is plus 0.95, that is plus. Then plus MnO4 -2, MnO2, that is plus 2.26. Then MnO2 to Mn3 plus, that is again plus 0.51. Then you will find Mn3 plus 2, Mn2 plus, again plus 1.51. Then you will see that from Mn2 plus 2, Mn0, it is minus 1.81, which clearly indicates that transition can take place easily from Mn plus 7 to Mn2 plus. It means Mn2 plus will be the most stable oxidation state. Then again manganese. So conversion of Mn2 plus into manganese is difficult because standard electrode potential is negative. Now simply you can simply say, now if you compare the stability of different oxidation states, there are different regions. First region is that if after losing the electrons, d orbital having empty d orbital or d5 system or d10 system, that oxidation state will be more stable. For Mn2 plus 2 is more stable because it has 3d5 electronic configuration. Similarly, for titanium plus 4 is more stable because it has 3d0 electronic configuration. For zinc 2 plus is more stable because it acquires 3d10 electronic configurations. Now there are some exceptions also there, that if this is not only the criteria for stability, if we take copper plus and copper 2 plus, copper plus has 3d10 electronic configurations, whereas copper 2 plus have 3d9 electronic configurations. As per rule, fully filled orbital should be more stable. So copper plus should be more stable as compared to copper 2 plus, but reverse is true. Copper 2 plus is more stable as compared to copper plus. So the other factor is lattice energy and hydration energy. If lattice energy and hydration energy is so high that compensate the higher value of ionization enthalpy, then elements can change over to the other oxidation states. So in the case of copper, lattice energy and hydration energy is so high that copper plus will not be stable, it will change to copper 2 plus. In sometimes you will also say that copper plus is not in a position to hold so many electrons together, so therefore change to 2 plus. But actual region is, we can be explained on the basis of standard electrode potential also. Copper plus get easily disproportionate. Now come to the catalytic properties. Transition elements act as a catalyst. Catalyst, you are very aware that change the rate of reaction, either decrease or increase. So almost all the transition elements act as a catalyst. I will give some example over here. The nickel lining is used to convert vegetable oil into vegetable ghee. So you can simply say that almost all the transition elements are act as a catalyst. Question is why it is so. So there are two different regions. Number one region I have just told you, variable oxidation states. You will find that if you say the vanadium pentoxide in the contact process SO2 plus O2 to give SO3, vanadium pentoxide act as a catalyst. So reaction mechanism suggested here that first vanadium pentoxide change to vanadium tetroxide, that is B2O4. React with SO2 plus B2O4 to give SO3 plus B2O4, then B2O4 combine oxygen to give B2O5. So it is only possible when they show variable oxidation state. The another reason is large surface area. They have a large surface area, that's why they have a tendency to absorb hydrogen on their surface, and in this form they act as a catalyst. Hydrogenated platinum, hydrogenated palladium. I think you are very well aware that in cars nowadays catalytic converter are used. The catalytic converter are hydrogenated transition elements.
In this transition series 3D, yes, we have used a catalyst as a copper is used as a catalyst, iron as a catalyst, vanadium as a catalyst, but the last element zinc is not used as a catalyst in so many reactions or not have catalytic property.
No, actually zinc has been also used as zinc enzyme, enzyme, because actually zinc, cadmium, mercury are not true transition elements, because as per definition of transition elements that they should have partially filled d orbital, but zinc, cadmium and mercury do not
They
have
are filled.
partially filled d orbitals, so they are not true transition elements. Now third property is magnetic properties. You are very aware that two different properties are there. The compound may be paramagnetic in nature and compound may be diamagnetic in nature. Generally we say the compound which are paramagnetic in nature are attracted by the magnet. See the iron rods, if put on the magnet, it will be attracted. Or you are very aware the separation of sand and iron. You can easily separate by using magnetic separation method, because iron is paramagnetic in nature, so iron will be stick to the magnet but not the sand. So the reason is, and diamagnetic substances are repelled by the magnet. So mainly we have to consider paramagnetic and diamagnetic character. Almost all the transition elements are paramagnetic in nature, and this question can be asked by the examiner why it is so. You can simply say the paramagnetic behavior depends upon the unpaired electrons. If any elements have unpaired electrons, that will be paramagnetic in nature. If you say copper 2 plus and copper plus, which is more or which is paramagnetic in nature, you can simply write down the electronic configuration. Copper 2 plus is 3d9, copper plus is 3d10. Since copper 2 plus has one unpaired electrons, it will be paramagnetic in nature, and copper plus have no unpaired electrons, that's why it is diamagnetic in nature. So for paramagnetism it is necessary that elements or compounds should have unpaired electrons. Then you can easily calculate the magnetic moment by using the formula under root n plus 2, where n is the number of unpaired electrons. So if you know the number of unpaired electrons, you can easily calculate the magnetic moment. Now next property is color. You are very well aware that almost all the transition elements and their compounds are colored. Question is why it is so. For example, you can take that chromium 3 plus, green in color, nickel 2 plus, also colored, copper 2 plus is also colored. Now from where color comes? The color, the reason is simply that electron is excited from ground state to excited state, and then it's come back, it emits energy from light. The color is depends upon the emitted light. So first reason of color is that compounds or elements should have unpaired electrons. For example, if you can take Ti2O3 and TiO2, which is colored. So you write down the electron configuration. In titanium is 3 plus, and TiO2 titanium is present in plus 4 oxygen states. So titanium 3 plus is 3d1 electronic configuration, and titanium 4 plus is 3d0 electronic configuration. Now transition elements are generally colored. You will find why they are colored. Color, the main reason is colored that they should have unpaired electrons. The electrons get excited from ground state to excited state, then it's come back to the ground state, and this form it emit energy in the form of light. So color depends on the color of light. Now you will find here that there are certain compounds, they don't have any unpaired electrons, but they are also colored. For example, you are very well aware, you will study later, that KMnO4 and dichromate. If you see the oxygen state of chromium is plus 6 in dichromate, and in manganese it is plus 7 in KMnO4. So you will find they don't have any unpaired electron in d orbital. Instead of that, in spite of that, they are colored. Why is the reason behind that? The reason behind that, the second category is charge transfer. If elements having no electrons, but it can easily charge to either metal or ligands, then they will be colored. So you can simply say that KMnO4 and dichromate are colored due to charge transfer. Some elements are also colored, or that for example you can say AgCl, AgBr, AgI. AgCl is white, AgBr is light yellow, AgI is dark yellow. What is the reason behind that? The third reason you can say polarization. As I have told you earlier in the case of chemical bonding, that if we increase the size of the anion, anion can be easily polarized. So simply we can say AgCl is more ionic as compared to AgBr, AgBr is more ionic as compared to Ag iodide. So simply you can say AgCl will be white, so that is called color due to polarization. Now sometimes you will see the color is also arises lattice defect. That if you take the sodium chloride, in case of sodium chloride there is no unpaired electrons, Na plus Cl minus. But if you put it in the Bunsen flame, it imparts color. What is the reason behind that? That you can simply say it is lattice defects. Similarly, you can take zinc oxide, it's white in color, but you put in the Bunsen flame, it changes to yellow. So reason is again due to lattice defects. So we can explain the color by using different methods: lattice defects, polarization, charge transfer, as well as unpaired electrons. Now last property is alloy formation. You will find that most of the alloys are formed by the transition elements, like you can brass, bronze. In all cases, there the transition elements are present. Then why transition element form alloys? The reason is because when you melt them, I have just told you that they have almost similar size, and due to similar size, when you mix them in molten state, they are miscible to each other. When they are miscible to each other, they can easily form the alloys.
During this mixing of metals to form alloys, is there exchange of atoms takes place in the lattice?
No atom will not change. That they are miscible to each other, and that's why when you solidify, you will get the alloy.
Alloys. Okay, learners, I think we have got very broad idea about the transition elements and its various properties, like its atomic size, ionization potential, and its standard electron potential, and various characteristics like complex formation tendency of d block elements, their catalytic property, their color formation tendency, and this imparts lots of idea about the transition elements. Thank you, sir, for coming in our studio.
Thank you, Dr. Raj.
जीवन ये प्रकाशित करने, राहों को आलोकित करने, हम अपना दीपक स्वयं बने, हम अपना रास्ता स्वयं चुने।
धन साधन समय की सीमा से विद्यालय जो मुक्त हो,
धन साधन समय की सीमा से विद्यालय जो मुक्त हो।
कभी पढ़े हम कहीं पढ़े वे विषय के